Like many others, you took the safe path. The good school, the good job. But now it feels like you're living in a cage. In this video, I'm going to talk about how The Matrix was not just a movie. It was actually a reflection for our own lives. And I lived this very lifestyle. I was a paramedic for 8 years, loving what I did, but working for very little money, barely making my ends meet. It wasn't until I had this realization 8 years in, when I was burnt out, stressed, tired, and going through symptoms of PTSD, that made me realize we're not built to live like this. And this very economy that these lies were built on, that this system was built on, to make you feel like you can barely get to where you're going, is actually crumbling before our feet, which is why people are suffering the way they are today. But there's a solution. There's a new economy, and I'm going to show you how there's a life raft deep within you that if you tapped into, you would have the solution that is the escape plan to leave this lifestyle that sometimes can make you feel so trapped. And this is not just a small thing. This is something that affects everybody on the planet right now. People are realizing there's a deeper sense to themselves. And like the ancients even said, it was plastered all over their temples. Know thyself. This system has paid us to forget who we even are. Let's get right into it here and talk about what the Matrix actually even is. The Matrix is a system of beliefs and values that you grew up in. It's a system that trained you to be a certain way. From the early days of going through kindergarten and learning how the world works according to the people who are teaching it to you, to going through school and eventually finding a job, these systems were structured the exact same way. And the way schools work now are the same way they worked 100 years ago. Whereas if you look at anything else, ships, cars, boats, houses, look way different than they did 100 years ago. This system has stayed in place since the early days of our grandparents and great-grandparents, training multiple generations to think and behave in a certain way. And this has become a self-reinforcing pattern. When you give enough thought, and a collective people give enough thought to a certain idea, a certain way of being, it becomes a self-reinforcing prophecy. And this is where we find ourselves today. In this sort of web of institutions and beliefs that are meant to control you and keep you exactly where you are, paying you to fit in and not stand out, not be unique, not tap into who you really are. Now I'll take a step further. Our uniqueness has actually been even stripped away from us. With what I call archetypes. We don't look at people as individuals anymore. We look at them as a certain type of person. Think about it. You may know somebody in your life that's like 12 other people, 15 other people that you might know, right? Isn't that weird? But each person actually has a deeper sense of uniqueness once you get to know them, yet it's never expressed in the real world. That's because the system shapes you to be this way, shapes you into these certain grooves and certain type of people, certain type of person that can be more easily understood and controlled by the very system that they live in. Now think about where you work today. Is there a sense of feeling of safety, of comfort? I mean, for me, it wasn't even about the pay. It was the ability to help people, to be able to make a difference in people's lives, and to be able to be there on the worst day of a person's life when it was just another day for me. That was sort of my golden handcuffs that kept me tethered to this job that was slowly draining away my life force. This energy that we have built up inside of us, that is only a limited amount of energy that you have, that will be used up before you even get to living life. And so by the time you get home, you don't have any of this energy left to go towards your purpose, to cultivate your uniqueness, to build maybe that business or to build that hobby that you've always wanted to put your time into. Now there's an insidious mechanism within you that is designed to keep you exactly where you are. It's not your fault. It's not your choice. It comes down to ancient tribal sort of mechanisms that run in your brain. There's a part of your mind called the basal ganglia, and this lies at the base of your brain, and it connects directly to your spine. It's the closest part to that nervous system that controls the rest of your body. Therefore, it's more powerful than even your higher mind, your higher consciousness, or your higher self, whichever way you want to look at it. And what happens is the system is designed to take control of this part of you. This part only wants fear, sex, it wants to make sure it's fed, and its basic life functions are met. It doesn't want anything else outside of that. And if you try to go beyond that, it'll do everything in its power to keep you exactly where you are so long as your needs are being met, or convincing you your needs are even being met. Now, I call this the resistance. And Seth Godin talks about in his book, Irreplaceable, or Indispensable, that's what it was called. He talks about this phenomena called the resistance that's designed to work against us through the only mechanism it knows how, through the only way it knows how. Fear. Using fear to keep you away from the things that you truly desire, to give you a million reasons why you shouldn't do something. And it's a very insidious sort of mechanism, right? Because it comes up in very sneaky ways, in terms of self-sabotaging yourself without you even knowing it, on a deep subconscious level. And because you grew up in this system over years and years, it's really hard to see how it's actually doing this, by convincing you things aren't safe, or convincing you something doesn't even sound reasonable or logical. Now, the good thing is, there's a reason to all the suffering that you might be feeling in the world today, that you might be feeling deep down inside of you, a deep sense of angst. And that all comes down to this idea that we're living in a transition right now. This old economy, this matrix that had these tools available to keep you in this fear state, to prevent you from expressing your uniqueness, and paid you for fitting in, like being a cog in a giant machine, is now slowly crumbling. We're making a transition to a new economy since the rise of the internet. This is beginning stronger and stronger and stronger. And the thing is, this new economy pays you to stand out, to express your uniqueness, to be who you really are. But many of us have forgotten who that person even really is. And so the quest becomes to go deep within and find out who you really are. This is your life raft. To be unique and to stand out, to be cringe, is your superpower in this day and age, especially when you have the tools available to you. Crypto for ownership, social media for distribution. You have various writing, like blogging sites. You have YouTube. You have all these different ways that you can actually express who you really are as a person and turn it into a living business that's compensating for your true value that you're providing to the world. You see people doing all kinds of strange things today. One of my favorite shows is this guy called Subway Takes. And he goes literally on the subway and he talks to people. And he's blown up over the last year, just sitting on the subway and talking to people and doing these funny, like short little interviews. And now he's like interviewing famous people on the subway, and just a simple idea has blown up for him into something incredible that supports his uniqueness and supports his lifestyle. Something that was never possible in the old economy. So how do we cultivate this life raft? How do we cultivate this deep sense of uniqueness within you? You have a personality, but this personality is mostly made up of lies. I'm sorry, it's true. Most of the things that you've learned over your life, the 20, 30, 40 years of experience, have been put upon you to create this sort of outer crust, this shell that you have to show the world to be a certain way, to make it look like you're fitting in. But this personality is not you. Beneath you is a deeper sense of individuality, an individual, somebody who came to this planet with a unique sense of purpose, a unique sense of expression. And I don't mean this in an esoteric way. Even think about yourself as a child, right? You yourself as a child had specific predispositions to things, had certain ways and tendencies of doing things that oftentimes were corrected out of you, that were slowly corrected out of you till you became in line with the rest of the crowd. This is the part of you to connect back with. If there are things that people thought you were doing that was weird when you were younger, it's time to revisit that part of yourself. If there are things that you see others doing that bring up maybe a sense of resent or a sense of jealousy within you, that's a sign that is something you're capable of doing, or something you may even know deep down within yourself. Your homework for this week is to listen. Every time you feel fear towards doing something, you feel anxiety towards a certain path that makes you feel unsure or uncertain, or you feel jealousy towards something or somebody who's doing something that you deep down feel like you could also do. Write that down and just record and listen. Another part of this is to get into a state of relaxation and silence. Because when you're in the state of relaxation and silence, which even you can do for a brief moment, then you can actually tap into a force that's all around us. What I called life force earlier in the video is available to you, and it'll help you in sort of cultivating a deeper sense of intuition, a deeper sense of self-trust, and to really eventually know who you really are at a deep level. This is your individuality. And there's a video here you can do for the relaxation and silence. Subscribe to my Substack. I just started a Substack. I've been writing like crazy, and I'll be releasing articles on a weekly basis that go right to your email inbox. And if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel. I'd love to see your support so I can support you. And until next time, peace.